Disclaimer: this video will contain mentions of topics that may be disturbing or triggering for the viewer, including mentions of rape, pedophilia, incest, murder, and child exploitative material. Viewer discretion is advised.
You cannot be for real. Oh my god, you for real. No, you for fake. No, you for real.
Hey, what's the dealio? Well, a user by the name of Mushroom Girl has dropped a video regarding proshipping and it's not good. Yeah, there's a reason why everyone and their pet duck is talking about it. The point made in the video falls apart if you use 1 iota of a brain cell, and Mushroom has paused the comment section, which I had no idea you could do, which is just great. And by the way, don't harass Mushroom Girl for her, takes. If you do that, you're cringe.
I'm just gonna give a warning that if you're an anti-shipper who's letting out a sigh of relief right now at the fact that I have now disowned my last pro-shipping video because you thought I was defending or sugarcoating pro-shipping, don't celebrate so early, my friends.
I don't think anyone is jumping for joy at the fact that you now support wank material for degenerates.
There's gonna be a lot of stuff packed into this video. First, let's start with some important definitions you'll need to know to understand a lot of this video.
Yeah, no, I think I'll be giving my definitions for this video. Nothing personal, I just don't trust any of your explanations. A pro-shipper is someone who supports a ship or shipping that is deemed problematic, and believes that freedom to create and consume fan work with such elements, regardless of what it portrays and romanticizes. Pro-fiction is a more broader term, and it just means that whatever you consume doesn't define your actual morals as an individual, and so they support consuming problematic media. And an anti-shipper is someone who objects to ships or shipping that's problematic.
So, what do I think about pro-shippers? Well, I refer to myself as pro-fix, so that should tell you everything that you need to know.
Thanks, Mushroom Girl. Now I know how to stay 10,000 miles away from you.
And as long as it stays completely fictional, there's no harm being done by creating fictional works with taboo themes.
No, that's not entirely true. If taboo themes and topics are misrepresented or mismanaged, it can cause people to be misinformed about a topic, and that can lead to harmful beliefs as a result. For example, not establishing consent or boundaries in media involving sex can lead to beliefs that eventually tie into rape culture.
I personally believe that anti-ship beliefs come from a personal disgust of certain content, and they think that just because it makes them uncomfortable and reminds them of real-life harmful and taboo subjects, it must be harmful in some way.
Not necessarily. Most people are alright with media involving dark topics if they're portrayed respectfully and not just slapped in for an excuse to be edgy or just for goon material.
That doesn't make these feelings invalid, but basing your whole idea of fiction on these feelings without properly thinking through them is a bad idea.
I thoroughly thought through them, and I still don't think dark material in media should be used for sexual gratification.
Anti-shippers have created sort of a straw man of pro-ship beliefs in order to make their arguments sound more understandable.
Nice tweet you just flashed on screen there. Unfortunately, I read it out, which means that what you're trying to say is complete bullshit.
Okay, I've seen some people not know what pro-shipping is. So first up, don't trust the top Google definition or whatever. It is a pro-shipper blatantly trying to steer hate away. Anyways, a pro-shipper is someone who supports problematic ships like incest and pedophilia. It is awful. Do not support them. Take pride in being an anti because that means you go against these horrific people.
Now where exactly is the lie in this, Mushroom Girl?
The definition has slowly turned from freedom of expression to basically a pedophile with extra steps.
What the fuck are you talking about? The tweet didn't make a new definition for pro-shipping. It just mentioned that pro-shipping is bad.
They are literally rewriting the definition to make it as easy to call pro-shippers pedophilic, abusive, family fucking rapists as possible.
Listen, pal, this gaslighting might work for your brain-dead audience, but it won't work for me. You can't just claim people are making up definitions without proper evidence. No, whatever the fuck this is.
If you change the definition of words on a whim, you can basically argue anything to be true. If you change the definition of leftism to mean people who like touching children, it's pretty damn easy to argue that leftism is pedophilic, isn't it?
What Why are you shoehorning in leftism to your argument just because you couldn't understand a tweet and misconstrued it for something else? I'm going fucking insane!
You can't just rewrite the definition because it makes your arguments look bad. That's textbook dishonesty.
You can't just claim people are changing definitions, Mushroom Girl. That's textbook dishonesty.
Many anti-shippers also make such lovely arguments about pro-shipping and the harm it does, so let's discuss some of those now.
If young impressionable children see content that's romanticizing pedophilia, incest, and abuse, they might think those behaviors are okay in real life.
Yeah, this material can be used to groom and condition impressionable children into normalizing their relationships with their potential abusers.
So there's one simple solution to this. Don't let this content get into the hands of people who are too young to properly differentiate fiction from reality. Unless that content is being deliberately shown to children or posted on websites made for kids, it's not pro-shippers' fault if children find that content.
How do you explain the concerning amount of pro-shippers who are minors, including yourself?
These works should have mature content warnings on them, and if they don't, then that's the individual creator's fault, not the fault of the pro-ship community or mindset as a whole.
Yeah, it's not the pro-ship community's fault for allowing children to engage and create content they shouldn't be interacting with. Mushroom Girl, are you fucking high?
And fuck, by this logic, anything not kid-friendly isn't allowed on the internet.
Yeah, most content like this don't have a toxic community made up of children who shouldn't even be engaging in it.
Fictional violence, fictional gore.
Neither fictional violence nor gore have material meant to be sexually gratifying.
Pornography in general.
Most pornographic material involves consenting adults.
Pro-shippers aren't babysitters. They are not responsible for your fucking kids.
But they sure like exposing kids to their community.
A victim of childhood sexual abuse or sexual assault might see this content and it might trigger them.
A lot of things might trigger a victim of abuse or assault.
Yeah, especially content that sexualizes their fucking trauma.
Just because a certain kind of content makes someone upset or gives them a negative emotional reaction doesn't mean the content is inherently immoral or should be purged from the internet.
Well, if it's used to romanticize or sexualize a traumatic experience for the sake of romanticizing or sexualizing it, then yeah, it should.
Again, this is why warnings exist, and if this content is not being properly tagged or spoiled, that is the fault of those individual pro-shippers.
Listen, Mushroom Girl, adding trigger warnings to content with dark material and calling it a day doesn't work if you're glorifying said dark material.
The worst you could say based on that is that some pro-shippers don't have proper regard for the safety of others, but that doesn't exactly argue the morality of the works being created.
Notice how Mushroom Girl will blame all anti-shippers for shit the vocal minority does, but if you mention that the pro-ship community doesn't offer basic content warnings, then she'll go, not all pro-shippers guys, only a few.
Fictional pedophilic content causes people to have those desires in real life and makes people commit those crimes in real life.
This is a common argument made by antis, and while to some it may seem sound at first, there has been, at least to my knowledge, no studies that properly confirm this claim to be true.
Just because there's no studies doesn't mean it doesn't happen. Medically, there's no classification for gambling addictions or porn addictions, but everyone with a fucking brain cell knows you can be addicted to those things.
Lolicon, Shotacon, and shipping that has pedophilic implications does not turn people into pedophiles.
Not directly, but it normalizes sexualizing children, and if a pedophile consumes more of this content, they're more likely to act on these urges.
People who already have these real-life desires may enjoy the same things in fiction for pretty fucking obvious reasons. The same reasons why someone who likes stabbing people to death in real life in his off time would enjoy watching slasher movies. Yet that does not mean that everyone who enjoys the slasher genre wants to hurt people in real life, or that the genre shouldn't exist.
Because slasher films aren't sexually gratifying material, unlike Lolicon.
The first example that always pops up in my head when I think about this discourse is the Slender Man stabbing.
Don't bring up the Slender Man stabbings, okay? That case occurred due to 2 mentally unstable children. Creepypastas aren't the same as CP. They're not even comparable.
Anti-shippers usually only throw a fit about dark media when it's sexual or romantic.
Yeah, because like it or not, the brain can't tell the difference between fiction and reality when you're horny.
But it's most likely based on moronic anti-kink and anti-porn beliefs.
What? No, where the hell did you get that idea from? You're allowed to criticize sexually suggestive material if it intentionally or unintentionally has harmful material, you absolute buffoon!
It makes them look really silly when you see anti-shippers eating up dark, morally questionable, and violent content, but throwing a fit on the ground like a toddler when they see someone enjoying similarly dark, morally questionable, and violent content because it's just a tad horny.
No, Mushroom Girl, it's not hypocritical. Let me break it down for you. Media which has dark topics usually have a reason for it to be there, for story or artistic purposes. Pornography has no other purpose than for the viewer to get off to, so there shouldn't be no reason to add dark material in porn, cause it's fucking gross.
This next counter-argument is a rebuttal to what I just said. Let's hear it.
Rape is inherently worse than murder, which is why you can portray one in a fictional setting and not the other.
That is entirely subjective?
Wow, an argument in an ethical discussion being based on ethics and morality isn't 100%? Calling me absolutely jaw-dropped at this revelation.
How is rape worse? By what standard?
Well, rape affects the victim so greatly that they have to deal with, leaving them in such a state that it ruins them so immensely that it's more humane to kill them instead. Not only the lifelong trauma and guilt, but also the physical pain and bleeding that could be fatal if the body is unable to take the penetration.
Your personal view on the morality of rape and murder do not prove anything in this discussion other than the fact that you have an opinion, I guess.
People are allowed to use their opinions and ideas in an argument. Fuck off.
Is that murder can be justifiable or accidental while rape cannot be. This is completely untrue, like factually untrue.
You can kill someone accidentally. You can't just slip and fall on top of another person and then proceed to assault them.
When you look up the definition of murder, Oxford Dictionaries says the following: the unlawful premeditated killing of one human being by another.
We're bringing up definitions? Fine, let's bring up the legal definition for law. The law defines murder as where one person of a sound mind unlawfully takes another life intending to kill or to cause grievous bodily harm. And while we're at it, let's look at the classification for murder. In the UK, there are 2 distinct types of murder: first-degree murder and second-degree murder. First-degree murder is a premeditated killing, meaning that the killer has planned the murder in advance. Second-degree murder, on the other hand, is a random killing that occurs in the heat of the moment. Not to mention that third-degree murder has also been requested to be added as a classification, which basically includes manslaughter. So, by legal definition, yeah, there's some instances where murder can be justifiable.
Murder cannot be right or reasonable by definition. That's why homicide by itself isn't a crime, but murder is.
Homicide is a category of crime. Regardless of whether it's murder or manslaughter, you can still face legal repercussions because they're both crimes.
Lolicon is illegal, so it must be morally wrong.
Are we really going to argue that the legality of certain actions dictates the morality of them?
I agree, especially since one's set in stone and the other depends on person to person. However, laws are generally made to protect a group of people. The way that they may be handled could be mismanaged, but it doesn't take away the fact that laws are a good thing.
First of all, what laws are we talking about here? Each country has its own laws that differ from each other.
Yeah, most countries have different laws regarding Lolicon specifically, but CP and pedophilia generally is illegal.
Oh, Oh, you mean US laws. Now I'm getting it. You're all chronically American.
Yeah, most of your audience is probably from the US and understands American laws the most. You know, because they live there.
Basing universal morality off of US laws has the implication that the US is somehow like the pinnacle of morality or something.
You know what? No, I'm not even gonna try to counter that stupid claim you just pulled out of your ass.
Legality does not equal morality no matter where you are in the world.
Because morality differs from person to person and laws are set in stone and can only be changed with the majority's input. Not everyone's going to agree with some laws. Personally, I think the punishment for possession of drugs is way too harsh, but it doesn't matter because at the end of the day, I can understand that they're there for a reason.
Oh yeah, I have another thing I want to address from this specific counter-argument. Lolicon being illegal is debatable.
Lolicon itself isn't 100% illegal, but the content it portrays is. There's no debating that sexualizing children is illegal.
Does it count as child pornography?
I moved this from child custody to criminal defense, as you're asking about whether a given genre of media, Lolicon or Lolita complex, counts as child pornography. The answer is an unsatisfying it depends. If you're talking about anime or manga, purely cartoon style, it's probably not going to count as child pornography. If it's purely words on a page written material, also generally not. If photographs of underage girls are involved, then it very likely could be construed as child pornography. Under federal and Oklahoma law, 18 is the minimum age to consent to explicit photography. All of that said, since this originated in child custody, if a person has a collection of such materials, think in terms of a collection of video or magazines, not a copy of Nabokov on the bookshelf, it can potentially have an adverse effect on a custody dispute, as it speaks to potentially dangerous or damaging conditions for the child in question.
Lolicon being illegal is quite debatable and, like John Christiansen here says, entirely dependent on the situation. Just owning a lolly manga or something most likely won't get you thrown in the slammer.
Probably not, but regularly consuming Lolicon media will raise concern and might result in a check of your hard drive just to see if there's more probable evidence of pedophilia.
But if your only argument against the morality of Lolicon is it's wrong because it's illegal, then maybe you need to rethink your opinion on the matter because you clearly don't have enough to actually argue against it.
Laws are based on societal values and morals. It's not like that 100%, but you really are downplaying the role of general morality regarding laws.
If fiction doesn't affect reality, then how does propaganda work? What about deepfakes that can harm the people being deepfaked? What about the Truman delusion?
Okay, first of all, fiction does affect reality. I don't think most pro-shippers are arguing against you on that.
Hey, this goes out to not only Mushroom Girl, but any pro-shippers watching this video. You can't just downplay fictional CP and abuse material just because it's not real, and then throw a hissy fit whenever people think that you're trying to say fiction doesn't affect reality. It's called making an inference from your stupid arguments.
First of all, propaganda. Propaganda works so well to brainwash and indoctrinate people because it is directly trying to tell you things about reality. It is quite literally made to affect reality.
Sexually suggestive or explicit material is purposely made for the viewer's gratification, meaning that the only reason why you'd add illegal and problematic elements to this material is because you want the viewer to find it hot.
And about deepfakes. Deepfakes are literally pulling real things, in this case people, into a fictional work.
What about fictional characters based on real people? Or personas someone used to represent themselves? They're still 100% fictional, so by your logic, this must be completely fine then.
This also applies to people's OCs, as the artists have the rights to those creations and should be allowed to tell someone to not include those characters in certain fictional works.
Fictional characters are OCs. OC literally stands for original character. Characters from fictional media are more professionally developed, yeah, but they're still original characters because the creator both wrote and designed them.
Now, lastly, the Truman delusion. I actually got this counter-argument from my significant other. He didn't agree with me on a lot of the opinions I had on this topic, so, like normal people, we had a civil conversation about it.
Jesus Christ, your passive-aggressive tone in this video is not only annoying, but what you just said literally degrades anyone passionate about any topic.
Brought up the Truman delusion, which is a delusion that you're constantly being filmed and that your life is a staged reality show. The condition is named after The Truman Show, a film about a man who experienced exactly that. The name was because some of the people experiencing these delusions did watch this film, implying some kind of correlation between watching the film and these delusions, though these people did also have a history of mental health issues that could have caused these delusions.
People with mental illnesses and delusions like schizophrenia, for example, should not be watching content that triggers them. Same with how pedophiles should not be engaging with Lolicon, because it also triggers them, albeit in a different way.
But that doesn't exactly prove much, because you wouldn't call to censor The Truman Show because of these delusions, would you?
Firstly, censorship doesn't include just burning all copies of it. Changing or deleting some scenes, hell, even adding a disclaimer for what it may contain, counts as censorship. And secondly, The Truman Show tells a story and has a plot. Lolicon is pornographic, and the main thing in porn is that it has no plot.
It's okay if you portray dark themes in media as long as you don't romanticize or sexualize them.
This argument often comes from a good place, and it seems sound and justified at a first glance. But I have a few issues with this argument, so many issues in fact, that I made a whole video on this specific argument.
I don't think I'll be watching any of your other videos anytime soon. In fact, watching your video just for this commentary made me want to get executed at London Tower.
To romanticize something in a piece of media, be it visual art or written stories, you just need to make the dark or upsetting subjects depicted look better than they are in reality. That is essentially the only qualification. Almost all art does this to an extent, and it doesn't necessarily imply the promotion of these topics. If you draw gore in any style that isn't hyper-realistic, it's technically romanticization.
The concept of romanticization is alright in some elements, but only in the context where it has a deeper message to it. Romanticizing dark topics with no discussions or meaning is the thing that people have a problem with.
The sexualization of these themes could be done for a number of reasons, someone's personal fetish being only one of them, and even if it was someone's fetish, that's none of your damn business and isn't something you should be demonizing someone over.
Sexualizing dark topics for the sake of personal gratification is wrong. I feel like a broken gramophone with how much I repeat myself over this.
People might depict dark themes this way for shock value, contrast, to get into the head of a character with these fetishes, etc., etc.
Having shit for shock value is also bad because you're diminishing the actual consequences of those things in real life.
My favorite example of the sexualization of dark themes to bring up in this discussion is probably Salad Fingers, a series that clearly portrays its main character being a sexual masochist, and even in later episodes, a necrozoophile.
I haven't watched Salad Fingers, so please correct me if I get anything wrong, but having a character with dark sexual impulses isn't the same as sexualizing said impulses.
But of course, aunties don't care about this insanely popular web series.
As I previously stated, having a character with dark sexual impulses doesn't mean you're sexualizing it yourself.
A more miscellaneous point I want to discuss is the weird correlation between anti-shippers and racism.
Fuck you, you don't get to bring up things like racism just to make your points look better.
This is a topic that is heavily discussed among pro-ship and anti-ship discourse that I feel like it would be an injustice to not bring it up. A fujoshi, meaning rotten girl, is a Japanese term that refers to a girl who is a fan of Japanese male-on-male genres such as yaoi or boy love. A fundashi, meaning rotten boy, is another Japanese term that refers to a boy who is a fan of Japanese male-on-male genres as well. The anti-ship community generally finds these people to be perverted fetishists.
Yeah, the way in which yaoi portrays relationships between men as forbidden, inherently sexual, as well as completely disregarding consent, and generally being heteronormative, with one of the male leads often being feminized by the other. It fetishizes gay men!
Being a fan of boy love and yaoi while being a woman is necessarily perverted and fetishy, even if that is their sexual preference. I would even go as far as to argue that that's kind of misogynistic to say.
This is a pretty stupid argument. Plenty of people also criticize straight men for fetishizing lesbian content. Aren't they just misandrists? Oh wait, no, only men can be held accountable for their actions, and criticizing women in any way is misogynistic.
Ask you this, my dear viewers. What's the difference between a gay man who enjoys media about his romantic and sexual experiences and a fundashi? A. The scary Japanese people made the media that fundashis primarily enjoy. B. The term comes from the evil spooky country, Japan. C. The people identifying with this label are often a part of the spooky scary country, Japan. Or D. All of the above.
Actually, it's neither. I don't need a white American girl try to condescendingly explain how not liking content that fetishizes gay relationship is inherently racist just because it comes from Japan. There's a ton of anime and manga with gay representation that are generally enjoyed because the character's orientation aren't fetishized.
But of course, these morons aren't going to directly say, I think Japanese people and their media is inherently perverted, so instead they try and demonize fujoshis and fundashis to make them look worse than they actually are, such as by claiming they're actually evil fetishizers of gay men for just having a simple interest in media made from Japan involving gay men. It doesn't make any actual sense.
It does make sense because yaoi has fetishistic elements to it. But I can't tell you in the comment section because you fucking paused it.
In conclusion, pro-shippers are a very misunderstood group who want nothing but the simple freedom of expression. And funnily enough, the group that often claims to be pure, moral, and backed with evidence of their claims are not as pure, moral, or backed with evidence of their claims as they like to portray themselves as. If something makes you uncomfortable in fiction, avoid it. If people post triggering works uncensored with no warnings, tell them they should put warnings and move on with your life. If you believe someone is creating fiction that is harmful, don't harass them over it or encourage people to harass them over it. Don't slander people as pedophiles because they ship things you don't like. And above all else, mind your business.
And that concludes Mushroom Girl's video, and oh my god, I forgot how absolutely awful it was, especially with how poor her counter-arguments were, as well as taking the least charitable interpretations of the other side, while also painting pro-shippers and lolicons as poor victims. The video is all over the place and she takes definitions and runs with it, not taking into account classifications or situations. This is probably one of the worst video essays I've ever seen. And Mushroom Girl, if you somehow stumble across this video, I don't actually hate you or want any drama. Most insults I've directed at you are purely for entertainment purposes and nothing more. I want nothing but the best for you, and I hope you learn to take criticism the way you dish it out. To everyone else, thank you for watching until the end. If I made any mistakes in my video, please feel free to correct me, and if you have any general criticisms on my video, please share them as I really appreciate all forms of advice. And feel free to share your personal thoughts in the comments because it's interesting to gain different viewpoints on the matter. But regardless, like, comment and subscribe if you want to, and until the next video. Get a load of this fun guy.